Snowman.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting for the council for the town of Petawawa to order for December 1st, 2020. Welcome to members of council, staff, and our guests in the audience this evening. We'll begin this evening's meeting with the reading of the land acknowledgement, and this evening is Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of the Petawawa Town Council and our community there, we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Omawini Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Omawini people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we're extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We would also all generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, and we wish to acknowledge our shared responsibilities in responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission 94 calls to action. Calls to action number 78. We call upon the Government of Canada to commit to making a funding contribution of $10 million over 7 years to the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation, plus an additional amount to assist communities to research and produce histories of their own residential school experience and their involvement in truth, healing, and reconciliation. Recent progress. Government of Canada funding supported projects responding to communities' need for planning, discussions, archival work, or storytelling prior to or in addition to excavation or identification on residential school sites in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. And now I'd ask if everybody present here this evening would please rise and join me for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you very much. I need a motion to approve this evening's agenda. Moved by Councillor Carnegie, second by Councillor Roots, that the agenda for the December 1st, 2025 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in any of this evening's matters? Seeing none, we'll approve some minutes. Council meeting of November 17th, 2025. I need a motion to approve those minutes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, seconded by Councillor Coutu, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held November 17th, 2025 be approved as printed and circulated. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, we're going to start the evening off with a presentation of our 2024 audited financial statements. And I'd like to welcome Angela Shute of Welch LLP to give us the audited financial statements of 2024 for the town of Petawawa. Good to have you back, Angela.
Thank you.
It seems like you were just here.
Yes. Good evening. So we'll start by the management letter, just to discuss that you had in your package. It's not up on the screen, but I'm sure you've all read it or seen it. It's very similar to what I spoke on last time I was here back in February presenting the 2023 statements. And because of the delay in getting those statements done and getting into 2024, many of those issues weren't addressed or weren't caught until early 2025. So although it looks like a long list of items, it's not something to be concerned about, because since we spoke about last time, it's been rectified, and early 2025, things were back on track. Okay? So yeah, don't be alarmed by it. The only two new issues that were listed on there and listed under not significant were the issue about a couple of the agreements that were signed by council that I was reading through were vague in some terms. They were missing some information in them. So it's just a reminder that before you read some or sign off on some of these agreements, that you make sure that all the details are there. So anybody picking up the project afterwards, if maybe someone's left and someone else has to pick it up and understand what the intention of that whole agreement was, can easily determine that by reading that. So just a reminder on that. The other issue was some HST errors that were found when you did the testing of the interim audit. Just some HST missed when processing some invoices, but again, we caught it in time. Then the staff went through and reviewed many of the other HST and entries and picked up a few other things, and it was a background software, something was not in there properly. So again, I feel like comfortable that they were able to find those errors and have picked them up, and you'll be getting a refund for those. Okay? So then I'll move on to the statement, unless anyone has questions on the letter, wants to ask me anything about it further.
You guys want to wait for the entire presentation of the audit to ask questions? Okay, I guess we'll wait till we move on. Thank you.
Go on then. So, as you see on the screen, the independent auditors report, very similar to other years. Again, remember that it does say consolidated financial statements, meaning that not only is it the town's financials, but the town includes in these statements 100% of the library, your Petawawa Public Library, plus the Waste Recovery Center, and your portion of that this year was 40.17%. And your portion of the Pembroke Area Airport Commission, which was 31.12% in 2024. So those pieces are also included in these numbers, and that's really be mindful again when we look at these numbers. Okay, so as the report has said, no concerns. We believe that your numbers present fairly the financial position of the town. So it's a clean audit report, nothing to bring to attention or concern. We're able to fulfill all our audit obligations. So if we look at this page, the statement of financial position, again at December 31st of 2024, this is what the consolidated entity had or owed at that point. So if we start right at the beginning, you'll see the cash balance has decreased by about $3.5 million. Now, if you recall back to your budget of 2024, you had expected to finance Wolf Avenue as well as your public works expansion projects through debt, and that never happened. So you didn't have that money coming in to pay for these projects, but as you know, you did these projects. So the cash went out, but you didn't have the financing coming in. So that's a large result of this drop in cash. Okay. The investments are those held at the Waste Recovery Center and at the airport. So there is an increase there, but both of those entities did put more money into their investment during 2024. Your taxes receivable are higher, as you'll see, over 2023. Now, with the changeover in staff in the finance department during 24, reminders didn't get sent out diligently, or there was no real follow-up or chasing down of your taxpayers that weren't paying. So it kind of got left to the wayside, unfortunately, and that's part of the reason you'll see, or a lot of the reason you'll see the increase in taxes. Accounts receivable has also increased, so this is money owed to the town at the end of the year. So this results in some water and sewer billings outstanding, the HST rebate, as I spoke about, we found those HST errors, so we were able to pick up some more, which was then receivable at year end. And as well, the Murphy Road reconstruction project, which the town paid for, and then rebuild the county. So there's a large chunk in there that's the county, of course, pays you after year end, but at the year end, there is an amount owing to you for that. Okay. Inventories for resale, that's really the airport and their fuel inventory. The total financial assets of $30 million. So the liabilities, what the township owes, as well as its consolidated entities, your accounts payable and accrued liabilities has increased. Now, that's a combination of many things as well. Hold back on your major construction projects were up at the end of the year. There was some unbilled gas and hydro bills, or hydro billings from the water plant that haven't been in yet. There's an extra month of leasing costs at the end of 24. That there's only 1 month in 23. Again, accrued wages. It all depends on how the end of the pay period falls. So there's an extra day, increases your cost. And there was a late billing from the county for your fire radio system that came in after year end, way after year end. So all those things contributed to the increase in the liability. Deferred revenue obligatory. So this is your development charges, your remaining Canada building, community building funding, as well as your remaining OSIP funding. So you received more development charges than was spent in 2024. In 23, you had spent a lot more on your development charges. As well, Wolf Avenue used most of the Canada Community Building Fund, but there was a carryover about $180,000 yet to use in future. And OSIP funding was not all used at $144,000, which will carry forward. If I go down to the asset retirement obligations, again, this isn't something that's a town specific. This is the Waste Recovery Center and what has to be shown for the cost of future closure of the Waste Recovery Center. And again, it's an estimate and you have to use inflationary rates and discount rates and come up with a value of what that liability might be. So nothing in stone, nothing to get too concerned about. Because also the Waste Recovery Center has those investments that I spoke about earlier set aside to help cover those costs when the time comes. As well, the long-term debt, as you know, is not the town specifically either, but the portion here relates to the Waste Recovery Center and the airport that both have some debt. We didn't take on anything new in 2024, just paid down some of the debt. They started in other years. The total liabilities of $11.4 million, leaving net financial assets of $18.7 million. And then your non-financial assets. So your tangible capital assets. There's a $3 million increase here. You've invested about $4.7 million in infrastructure. So that's roads, sidewalks, crosswalks, water, and sewer distribution systems. As well, there's about 3.2 invested in other town assets, the plow truck, the EV car, the public works expansion, which is a large one, the pickup truck for the fire departments. All those things are included in that line. And then there's the annual book cost or book write-down of amortization of about $4.5 million. Prepaid expenses, mainly this is just an increase due to your increased insurance costs. 24 over 23. So overall, your accumulated surplus is $134 million. And we'll talk about what makes up that accumulated surplus later when we get to that special amount we talk about every year. So if we want to go already on it. So statement of operations, this is kind of what happened over the entire year, your revenue and your expenses. The property taxation, as you see, increased. It's about 8%, and 63,000 of that was due to supplementals. So not items that you expected to receive at the time of the budget. We look at your payment and remove taxes. This number looks very different than 2023, but I want to remind you that in 23 you had that wonderful mitigation payment from the Ontario government to make up for the difference in education tax rates that they promised versus what they could really provide. Also, there is, in 2023, you had about $1.5 million in supplemental billing. So that's another reason why your 23 actuals look quite a bit higher than the 2024. Your users and frontage charges were about $1 million more than your budget. Your actuals were higher in most lines, however, your biggest variances related to water and wastewater user fees. And again, this is one of those things that are hard to budget for because you don't know exactly what usage is going to look like. So it's usually estimated based on the projections by your studies, but again, they're estimates. And also the Waste Recovery Center had about $100,000 more in their user fees too than expected. So provincial and government transfers, this is typically grant money that you've received from other government agencies. It's less than you expected, but you had budgeted for grants in relation to the charging station, the healing circle, the accessibility at Norman Banky Hall, but didn't receive any of those grants. As I spoke about earlier, the OSIP funding used on Portage Road wasn't fully utilized. So that's another reason it was less. And also the budget included a final payment for the Net Zero project, which hasn't been received yet, as that project is still ongoing. So again, it's also less than the 2023 year because in 2023 you used more of the OSIP funding and Net Zero revenue was posted of 1.1 million, which you didn't have in 24. Your Canada Community Building funding, again, the budget is based on the number you were told you're going to get and the money you did actually receive. But again, you didn't have to use it all. So we only used 951,000 of it. Okay? And of course, in the other year, you didn't use most of it. So it was put aside to use this year in 24. Development charges. Again, I spoke about you didn't earlier, 2024, you didn't end up using as much as you had in 23 in different projects, and it was actually less than you planned to use because certain things didn't get done. And the other two things that you did budget for, the development charge study and the master plans, didn't use the full amount that you had budgeted for. Okay. Investment income, again, a lot of this relates to the Waste Recovery Center in the airport. And it's quite a bit more than budget, but none of the entities, everyone's conservative when you get to this line. You really don't know how much cash you're going to have or how well your investments are going to do. So rather than inflating this and hoping you to get there, it's easier to be conservative. And you'll see there's that big fluctuation between budget and actual. And honestly, there's quite a bit of interest earned just on their water and wastewater reserve, life cycle reserves. These service charges, donations, and miscellaneous. It's only slightly higher than your budget. I believe your budget was based on your 2023 actuals, and you actually received an additional $82,000 in insurance reimbursements during 2024, which of course you wouldn't have known about or budgeted for. This year you received a gain on disposal of capital assets. You sold a loader and a plow truck, which you made some money on. The Waste Recovery Center also sold some larger equipment, a loader and a bulldozer. So overall, actual revenues of 31.3 million, where you had budgeted 31 million, 31.1. So fairly similar and very good. You hit your budget and then some. So now as we look at expenses, the general government, again, a reminder before we look at expenses, amortization is not budgeted for. So you expect your budget numbers to be lower than your actuals. So there's no surprise when your actuals are higher. So just keep that in mind. Your general government, your budget was more than your actual though in this case because wages were less than anticipated. And you had budgeted for an operating contingency, which you didn't have to use. So your actuals were up over 2023 because, again, your admin wages were up. Of course, you have the CPI index. There was some extra IT consulting costs and software licensing. I know you have a new IT person on board as well. In 24, you had development charges study and your 10-year infrastructure plan, which you wouldn't have had in 2023. And again, insurance is higher. So that all contributed to being the larger amount for 24 than 23. Protection to persons and property. This increase over budget, or the higher amount over budget, is really amortization in this case. And then when you compare it to the prior year, it's pretty similar. But again, fire salaries were up, and that's heavily dependent on number of calls. You can't really estimate that when you're doing that easily. But they also had savings in their equipment and property maintenance. Transportation. So here you really see the difference between the budget and the actual, because transportation has a large amortization. It's 3.9 million alone, because anything to do with your infrastructure, like your roads, your sidewalks, all that stuff goes into transportation. So like plow trucks, all the expensive stuff ends up in transportation. Also, in this line, the other reason it's higher this year is Murphy Road. So as you know, you agreed to help with Murphy Road to bring it up to your urbanization standards, and Murphy Road is actually owned by the county. So we have to show it as an expense to you because it's not an asset. It's not something that belongs to you in the end. It's just money you help put into that. So right there was the reason for the increase from 2024 to 23. Environmental services, again, there's 1.6 million in amortization not budgeted for. Your actuals were less than 23, which is good. Part of that was the waste recovery center, and in 23 you had a lot of water hydrant maintenance done, which you didn't have to do again in 2024. Recreation and cultural services, pretty consistent across the board. We did have some additional costs in wages and salaries. You, as I understand it, well, when you took over Silver Thread, there's a few more salaries there. I understand the summer camp program added another age group, so there was extra costs associated with salaries there to have more staff of those as well. And with Silver Thread also in there, you inherited the cost of operating that. So that those extra costs for Silver Threads are also included in that line. And finally, planning and development. So you're less than what you budgeted, because there was projects that were budgeted for, like the draft study, the Petawawa line letter sign project, the BR&E project, and the normal banking design. Items budgeted for, but just didn't get around to getting done. So you saved costs there. And of course, it is higher than the prior year because you did have an additional planner in the year you hired. So that's why the costs are up from the prior year. So overall, your excess of revenue over expenses was $3.2 million for the consolidated entity. And again, when we add that to the accumulated surplus of the prior year, we get back to $134 million. So what makes up that special $134 million? If you can scroll to page 15 of the statement, note number 9, the important one. So this tells you how each of the areas of the town actually did overall. So for your unrestricted surplus deficit number, your general was actually a deficit in 2024 of $693,722. So the reason behind that is, as I spoke right at the beginning, there was plans for debentures for financing to help cover off those major projects, the Public Works expansion and Wolf Avenue, which didn't get done. So really you finance that, all but $693,000 of it, through your general operating this year. So that's the reason for the deficit. And you'll see water had a surplus of $777,000, and your wastewater, 1.165 million. Your surpluses in those two areas. Okay. And then we had in your 100% of the library, they had a surplus of $31,000. So that comes to 1.2, and then the internally restricted reserves, so the money set aside at all the entities, is 20.6 million in reserves for the future. And then that change in asset retirement liability, again, that waste recovery center, and then the equity and tangible capital assets. So the value of the book value of your assets less any long-term debt makes up that 115 million. It comes to $134 million. So that's all I need to tell you.
Okay, thank you very much, Angela. So I think we're starting to make sense of all of this. I just want to add one little thing. When you spoke about in the statement of operations, when you did the tilt line,
Yeah.
and you talked about us getting 2.7 million from the Ontario government, and then you said there was also a supplemental. Just to add to that explanation, it's because the garrison had 3 or 4 new buildings that had been coming online in 21, 22, 23, but they hadn't begun paying tilt on it until the 2024 year.
No, 2023.
2023.
They got caught up for 21, 22, and
Yeah.
23 on those properties. Yes, so that's why 22 was higher.
Yeah. Okay, I'll open it up for questions from members of the council. No questions from anybody? Angela did that. Good job. Okay, maybe I'll ask a question then, because I know we were hoping we could explain this to council. So the deficit of $694,000 was because we did work on our public works building, and we did work on Wolf Avenue, and what we're going to finance it with debt, but we didn't yet. So we have $694,000 deficit that needs to be financed by debt. So maybe you can explain a couple of the options that we have.
So it needs to be financed within the next year or so, meaning 2025, which we're almost the end of, that's why I'm saying, or so. Because I don't know if some of you remember in the old days, your deficit used to carry over and have to be funded through the budget the next year. So you could go out and get debt to cover off this amount, or you could potentially fund it through your reserves or reserve funds. Now, preferably it would be through a reserve fund or reserve other than water or wastewater, because when you look at water and wastewater, there are different pools of taxpayers, right? Not everybody's on water, not everyone's on wastewater. So when you look at the other reserves, they're all made up of money from all your taxpayers. So that's why it's not affecting different taxpayers if you pull from reserves and reserve funds to cover it off that way. But that's, if you're going to decide to do that, you probably want to pay it back over a certain length of time. And if you go ahead and decide to do it that way, I suggest that you're very clear on that, because ultimately reserves and reserve funds are a council decision to move money around. So if you're clear, then the next council will also know what the intention was and the reasoning why you decided to pull from specific funds and cover it that way. But you're going to save money because you're not paying interest to an outside party.
Okay, thanks for that explanation. Are there any other questions on anything concerning water? Okay, I guess everybody's very comfortable with the work you've done and the state of our financials. I know there are a lot of different moving parts to the financial audit, but in the end, it's almost balanced except for the $694,000, and we'll come up with a strategy to make sure that we cover up on that. And it sounds like the best available option is to go into our reserve and cover that ourselves to avoid paying interest and basically pay ourselves back by replenishing that reserve. Okay. Oh, we do have a late breaking question from Councilor Dutton.
Thank you. Thank you, my service. That's a question more comment. I just noted in your management letter that you expressed your appreciation for the assistance of staff. So I just want to do the same because I know that a lot of work comes out when into continuous working with you on this. So I just wanted to highlight that section. And thank you.
Okay, nothing further? All right, thanks again to you and your team. I know I've seen you here quite a bit in the last little while. Yeah. And yeah, we're always appreciative for the work that you do and how you work cohesively with that staff as well. When are you going to start 2025?
Already started.
Look at that.
Today.
We're getting back on track.
We're trying to get back on track.
Okay, so if everybody's comfortable, I need a motion. Moved by Councilor Root, seconded by Councilor Donovan, that the consolidated financial statements for 2024 be accepted by council. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much, Angela.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to bylaws. First up, we have bylaw 1786/25, being a bylaw to appoint a treasurer for the corporation of the town of Petawawa. I need a motion for first and second reading. Moved by Councilor Carmody, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, that bylaw 1786/25, being a bylaw to appoint a treasurer for the corporation of the town of Petawawa, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1786/25, being a bylaw to appoint a treasurer for the corporation of the Town of Petawawa, be read a first and second time this first day of December 2025.
Okay, I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1786/25. Moved by Councilor Couture, seconded by Councilor Roots, that bylaw 1786/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions or comments on the bylaw? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1786/25, being a bylaw to appoint a treasurer for the corporation of the Town of Petawawa, be read a third time and passed. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1786/25, this first day of December 2025.
And as we are all aware, Megan O'Quinn will start Monday, December 8th. 1 week from today. Light top class. Number 2, bylaw 1787/25, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with municipal law enforcement services for the provision of animal control, bylaw, and parking enforcement services for the corporation of the town of Petawawa. I need a motion for first and second reading of said bylaw. Moved by Councilor Roots, seconded by Councilor Carmody, that bylaw 1787/25, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with municipal law enforcement services for the provision of animal control, bylaw, and parking enforcement services for the corporation of the town of Petawawa be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1787/25, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with municipal law enforcement services for the provision of animal control, bylaw, and parking enforcement services for the corporation of the Town of Petawawa, be read first and second time this first day of December 2025.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1787/25. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, seconded by Councilor Couture, that bylaw 1787/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions, comments on the bylaw? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1787/25, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with municipal law enforcement services for the provision of animal control, bylaw, and parking enforcement services for the corporation of the Town of Petawawa, be read third time and passed. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 178725 this first day of December 2025.
And just for your information, they started today. Today was their first day. I tried to look for vehicles, but I really wasn't sure what I was looking for. Hopefully they had a very good first day. Okay, next I have bylaw 1788/25, being a bylaw to appoint municipal law enforcement officers for the town of Petawawa. I need a motion for first and second reading. Moved by Councillor Couture, seconded by Councillor Driscoll, that bylaw 1788/25, being a bylaw to appoint municipal law enforcement officers for the town of Petawawa, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 178825, being a bylaw to appoint municipal law enforcement officers for the town of Petawawa, be read a first and second time this first day of December 2025.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1788/25. Moved by Councillor Couture, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that bylaw 1788/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Are there any questions or comments on the bylaw? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 178825, being a bylaw to appoint municipal law enforcement officers for the town of Petawawa, be read a third time and passed. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 178825 this first day of December 2025.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1789/25. I just did that?
Oh, you did 1788.
I'm in a time warp.
No,
Let's go to the next bylaw meeting then.
1789.
For your information, there are 6 new bylaws. And working out of Renfrew, company from Renfrew. Now we will move to bylaw 1789/25, being a bylaw to authorize the purchase of land from the estate of Albert Dearman. Staff report PL-37-2025 regarding a purchase of land on Norman Street. I need a motion for first and second reading. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Roos, that bylaw 1789/25, being a bylaw to authorize the purchase of land from the estate of Albert Dearman, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 178925, being a bylaw to authorize the purchase of land from the estate of Albert German, be read a first and second time this first day of December 2025.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1789/25. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, seconded by Councillor Driscoll, that bylaw 1789/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions or comments on the bylaw? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 178925, being a bylaw to authorize the purchase of land from the estate of Albert German, be read a third time and passed. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 178925 this first day of December 2025.
And that cleans up the final piece of the puzzle for our new in-note notice. We can finally proceed. Next, we have bylaw 1790/25, being a bylaw for prescribing standards for the maintenance and occupancy of all property within the town of Petawawa. Staff report PL-36-2025, the revised clean yards and property standards bylaws. I need a motion for first and second reading. Moved by Councillor Couture, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that bylaw 1790/25, being a bylaw for prescribing standards for the maintenance and occupancy of all property within the town of Petawawa, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 179025, being a bylaw for prescribing standards for the maintenance and occupancy of all property within the town of Petawawa, be read first and second time this first day of December 2025.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1790/25. Moved by Councilor Roots, seconded by Councilor Carmody, that bylaw 1790/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions or comments? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1790-25, being a bylaw for prescribing standards for the maintenance and occupancy of all property within the Town of Petawawa, be read a third time and passed. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1790-25, this first day of December 2025.
Big thanks to Melanie, Raj, and Noah for all their work on these bylaws. They have finally come to fruition. Next, we have bylaw 1791/25, being a bylaw to require the owner or occupant of land to clean and clear the land or to clear refuse from the land, not including buildings. I need a motion for a first and second reading. Moved by Councilor Roots, seconded by Councilor Coutu, that bylaw 1791/25, being a bylaw to require the owner or occupant of land to clean and clear the land or to clear refuse from the land, not including buildings, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1791-25, being a bylaw to require the owner or occupant of land to clean and clear the land or to clear refuse from the land, not including buildings, be read first and second time, this first day of December 2025.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1791/25. Moved by Councilor Coutu, seconded by Councilor Driscoll, that bylaw 1791/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions or comments on the bylaw? Then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1791-25, being a bylaw to require the owner or occupant of land to clean and clear the land or to clear refuse from the land, not including buildings, be read a third time and passed. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1791-25, this first day of December 2025.
Next, we have bylaw 1792/25, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 160/00, being a bylaw to establish road standards for summer roads. I need a motion for first and second reading. Moved by Councilor Roots, seconded by Councilor Driscoll, that bylaw 1792/25, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 160/00, being a bylaw to establish road standards for summer roads, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1792-25, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 160/00, being a bylaw to establish road standards for summer roads, be read first and second time, this first day of December 2025.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1792/25. Moved by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Driscoll, that bylaw 1792/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions or comments? Then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1792-25, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 160/00, being a bylaw to establish road standards for summer roads, be read a third time and passed. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1792-25, this first day of December 2025.
Okay, we're finished with bylaws. Next, we'll move to correspondence. I'll invite Councilor Carmody to make a presentation on the Missing Children Society of Canada. And in his role as Chair of Petawawa OPP Detachment Board, Councilor Carmody has brought this forward to our attention. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Service. This is a correspondence that was brought to the attention of the board by yourself, actually. And it involves the partnership between the OPP and the Missing Children Society of Canada. So we discussed this at a board meeting and thought it would be a good idea to bring it forward to a council meeting so that we could disseminate the information to the residents of the town and encourage people to sign up for this worthwhile effort. So a little bit about the Missing Children Society of Canada. The Missing Children Society of Canada was founded in 1986 as a non-profit organization dedicated to locating and recovering missing children. The organization works closely with law enforcement, families, and the public to provide resources, investigation support, and awareness campaigns. The Society's goal is to use technology and public participation to improve the chances of reuniting children with their families. The MSCS Rescue is one of the key tools in their modernized approach to child safety. So if you scan the QR code that's included in the agenda, it will bring you to a website where you can sign up to be part of the program. And it's you'll get notifications on your phone regarding children that are missing in the area. So I think that's all I have to say about it, unless the Deputy Mayor has anything to add.
Hold that for now, I yelled at you.
I guess you could have just shook your head.
So we would encourage the residents of Petawawa to sign up for this valuable service. Thank you.
Any questions from members of council on this initiative? Well, thank you for bringing it forward, Councillor Carmody. It's a very important initiative. And yeah, I'm with you. I hope that the residents of the town of Petawawa are somehow made aware of this through social media, if you're watching this council meeting, and everybody takes the opportunity to join in this important initiative. Okay, next we'll go to minutes. We have some minutes from the council and committee meeting from November 24th, 2025. I need a motion to accept those minutes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabern, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that the minutes of the council and committee meeting held on November 24th, 2025 be accepted by council, and that resolutions from that committee become resolutions of council. Are there any questions or comments on the meeting minutes? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have minutes from the Petawawa OPP Detachment Board meeting of October 14th, 2025. I need a motion to accept those minutes. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabert, that the minutes of the Petawawa OPP Detachment Board meeting held on October 14th, 2025 be adopted as information. Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. So this board meeting, we covered a lot of ground with regular housekeeping type stuff that we normally do. And one thing that you'll note is we did defer any evaluation. Normally every year we would do an evaluation of the detachment commander, like a performance evaluation, but this past year we had 3 or 4 different acting commanders. So there was no sense in doing an evaluation because we didn't really have anybody to evaluate. So that being said, but part of the reason that there were so many different ones is that Inspector Neufeld had been seconded to headquarters and was doing work down there, and he had subsequently applied for the position of Superintendent of East Region for the OPP and was successful in that competition. So he will be leaving us as a detachment commander at Upper Ottawa Valley. I'm not sure when, but in the not too distant future. And there will be a new detachment commander at Upper Ottawa Valley in the near future. So that's my report.
Questions on the Petawawa OPP Detachment Board report? Okay. Yeah, it'll be a sad day that Inspector Depot, please, because he's been with us for 8 years now. But just so you know, we have invited him to come here next Monday, December 8th, so we can give him a proper Petawawa send-off as he moves on to the next stage of his career. Okay, if there are no questions, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next we have a staff report. So I'll invite Colin and Don to present a staff report on 2025 Strong Mayor Powers presentation. And just so council is aware, this is an initiative started by myself with consultation with Colin and Don. We thought it was important to bring this forward, not only to council, but to the entire town of Petawawa.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Service. As council is aware, the province implemented strong mayor powers initially in 2022, specifically for the City of Toronto and City of Ottawa, to support increased housing. In 2023, another 26 municipalities were added. Later in 23, another 21 were added, and in 2025, 169. So in total now, there's 218 municipalities within Ontario of the 444 who now have strong mayor powers. So the legislation associated is Ontario Regulation 53022 and Ontario Regulation 58022. The strong mayor powers, again, are related to prescribed provincial priorities, and their priorities are to build 1.5 million new residential units by December 31st, 2031, and as well as anything that's going to assist with the creation of housing. So constructing and maintaining infrastructure to support housing, which is including transit, roads, utilities, and servicing such as water and sewer. So mainly the part, 6.1 of the Municipal Act sets out the specific powers that the mayor has. There are certain powers that the mayor can delegate. He can delegate appointing and dismissing the CAO, the hiring and dismissing of certain municipal department heads, and establishing and reorganizing departments within our organizational structure. There are some positions that are statutory positions that don't fall into this delegation or hiring and dismissing, such as the clerk, deputy clerk, treasurer, deputy treasurer, and fire chief, among a few others. The mayor can also delegate creating committees of council, assigning their functions, and appointing chairs and vice chairs. And again, this specifically only applies to committees that are made up of members of council. So currently, right now, that would be our Committee of Adjustment or Property Standards Committee. Most of our other committees do involve citizen appointments, so those would still fall to council to be able to appoint. Yeah, okay. The mayor, again, he may choose to delegate those powers to the CAO and council, or council only, at the choice of the mayor. Now, unfortunately, for Deputy Mayor Severin, the strong mayor powers cannot be delegated to the deputy mayor position. Even also, too, if we were to have a vacancy in the position of mayor, it can't be delegated to an interim mayor or acting mayor. You have to have a by-election. So we hope we don't have a vacancy in the position of mayor next year before March 31st, because we're already having a municipal election. I don't want to run too. Okay. So other items that basically that cannot be delegated, which is again in the Municipal Act, is proposing the town's budget, which would be subject to council amendments and a mayoral veto and a council override process. I've seen several different flow charts. It's a very complicated process if there's vetoes and overrides and such involved with adopting the municipality's budget. There's other bylaws that the mayor has the option to veto. It could be all or part of a bylaw that the mayor thinks would interfere with a provincial priority. So that list that I spoke of previously. The mayor can also bring forward matters for council's consideration, again, if they could potentially advance a provincial priority. And if the mayor is to direct municipal staff, it needs to be in writing, and also posted and communicated to council. So there are two types of directions that the mayor can provide. So they are mayoral directives, which are items where the mayor is directing municipal employees, and mayoral decisions are items that the mayor is delegating. So we're trying to separate the two items, and again, both need to be in writing and communicated to council and posted to the municipal website as well. And I'm not going to go through each line by line. We've discussed vetoing. I'm sure everyone has read this. Again, as I said, the vetoing, there's different, like 2-day window for mayor to provide notice. There's a 14-day window to veto the bylaw and such, and that falls to the clerk to communicate all of these decisions to council and the public. So the budget is again subject to the regulations, and the powers and duties of a municipality with respect to proposing and adopting a budget are assigned to the head of council of the municipality. So bringing forward the budget, again, cannot be delegated. It falls to the mayor. The mayor is required to propose a budget by February 1st of each year. If not, it then falls to council for adoption following that date. The mayor can direct staff to prepare and present a budget for consideration. And then again, we go through the council can adopt or amend the budget. There's a 30-day review period and such. The way we're moving forward this year, it would look like it's going to be a council budget, because I don't think it will be adopted before February 1st, but we will see how things progress. And then the big question is, what if our mayor wants to decline these powers and duties? So as council recalls, back in April, council adopted a motion opposing strong mayor powers for the town of Petawawa. And that decision was communicated to the Premier and to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. The mayor's powers to advance or protect provincial priorities cannot be surrendered. The mayor can only promise not to use them, and that promise is not binding. And the mayor cannot delegate the budget and can only forfeit it after February 1st. So we've already spoken to, so whether our mayor wants these powers or not, the mayor still has to adopt some directives or decisions in accordance with the legislation. So another thing that staff is proposing is, in order to avoid any unnecessary delays in the enactment dates of our bylaws, caused again by the special veto powers, is that we're recommending that at every bylaw that we adopt moving forward at every council meeting, that the following wording is added, where it states, by signing this bylaw, say on December 1st, 25, Mayor Gary Service agrees not to exercise the strong mayor power to veto this bylaw, and therefore this bylaw will be deemed passed on the date indicated. And again, as Mayor Service mentioned earlier, this presentation has been provided for information purposes only. It's not a decision that council needs to make. It's something the province has said you now have, which is strong mayor powers. And I provided a list of recommended resources should you wish to review that and immerse yourself in the new rules. And then I'll turn it over to Mayor Service for
Okay, thank you, Don and Colin, for putting this together. So as you heard Don mention, there are over 200 municipalities in the province of Ontario. that have been granted strong mayor powers. And not all of them have accepted them, and many municipalities have done what we have. I've written a letter to the minister to state that we do not wish to receive these powers, but that has limited legal scope. It's just a promise, basically for me, that I won't use the powers. So Don and Colin did a lot of research of what other municipalities have done, and many of these municipalities have issued, I guess, mayoral decisions to delegate the powers. So as you saw in your package, we had made a decision to have 4 mayoral decisions to delegate those 4 powers. You want to?
Well, three decisions in one direction.
Sorry. The 4 are to delegate the powers regarding appointing and or dismissing the chief administrative officer, which is the CEO, delegating that to council, which is all of us. You may have noticed that there has been a local municipality that recently exercised strong mayor powers to, I don't want to say to terminate the CEO. I would rather not do that on my own. I would rather have council agree that that is something we want to do. The next mayoral decision is to delegate powers regarding organizational structure, including employment matters, to the chief administration officer. It is the CAO staff. And the CAO has always had the authority to hire and fire municipal staff. Sometimes council and the mayor offer opinions and advice on certain things, but in the end, it's ultimately the CAO's decision to hire and fire staff. The next is to delegate the powers regarding committees to council and the striking committee. So those were the 2 committees we had that are just formed with members of council. And the final one was to direct the chief administrative officer and the director of finance treasurer to present the town's annual budget. It's such an important piece of legislation for the town every year, the budget. It kind of guides everything that gets done in the town. And I feel that's too big of a task to put in one person's hands. It's something we should all discuss and do together. Not only council, but the staff's input as well. The other reasoning behind all of this is you saw the time it takes to veto, to override, to amend, the amendment periods. Sometimes these last months. If a person were to say, I want to veto this, then the council can override, and then there's all these different time periods. The whole purpose of this is to speed things up and get homes built faster and infrastructure built faster. And at this rate, just seems it would bog things down and delay things even further. I'm just going to read you this. I am firmly of the belief that exercising strong mayor powers undermines the value of collaboration between the mayor, councillors, and staff. Increasing the powers of the mayor to push forward provincial priorities would eliminate shared decision-making, create divisiveness at the council table, and blur the lines between administrative and political roles. Our council believes that this would result in an erosion of democratic process at the municipal level, especially in a small town like Petawawa. Although we don't always agree unanimously on everything that we do here, our council works as a cohesive unit, firmly focused on the goals of advancing and encouraging growth, making our community a wonderful place in which to live and invest. Each member of council brings their own set of skills, knowledge, expertise, values, and perspectives to achieve these goals, and has worked extremely well over the past 3 years. We will continue as a group to focus on advancing provincial priorities by delivering much needed housing, building infrastructure that supports community growth, and the construction of new homes, including housing enabling infrastructure such as water and wastewater. And we will do it again. Okay, since there's no discussion or anything to vote on, I will ask members of council if they'd like to comment or ask a question. Councillor Kernan.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Such a bad idea, strong mayor powers. I'll start by saying that I applaud the mayor for these mayoral decisions. That's a hard one to get in. However, another mayor can come along and undo these decisions using the very same values. So, strong mayor powers were implemented to improve slow and inefficient decision-making processes and address Ontario's housing crisis. You cannot address Ontario's housing crisis by undermining the democratic process. Representative democracy was designed to be slow and inefficient. It's messy. It includes many voices, and it takes a long time to hear those voices. Strong mayor powers silence those voices. Strong mayor powers lead to minority rule. Significant legislation can be passed by a strong mayor and a small group of supporters. Strong mayor powers could be particularly dangerous in a municipality with a ward system. Strong mayor powers are not in the interest of the common good, and I would say the ship of state needs more than just the captain to keep it off the rocks. Democracy may not be the best form of government, but it's the best one we've been able to dream of. So those are my thoughts on strong mayor powers.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kerman. Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, James, for that eloquent rendition of truth. Again, I think that what you're doing, Mayor Service, is very much in the spirit of democracy and very much in the spirit of representing the interests here in the town of Petawawa of our residents. And we do that. We've done that through the election system. We've done that through gathering together to state our views, state our feedback, and make decisions together. And I think that has served us very well in Petawawa, and will continue to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, if there's nothing further, then we're going to carry on with our meeting. So next up, we have councillor reports, and we'll start with Deputy Mayor Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just, a few dates of interest in November. I had neglected the last time I spoke to talk about the blanket exercise that I participated in on the 7th of November. Definitely a worthwhile exercise to learn more about the experiences of our Indigenous people and colonization. And I would encourage anybody who did not attend that to jump on board for the next one that will be occurring here in the town of Petawawa. I attended the OPP Detachment Board meeting on the 19th of November. I also attended a candle making workshop facilitated by Haley from the library. And I just wanted to thank you very much for that. And it's something that's offered to our community free of charge. And there's a couple of events that occur practically bi-monthly. So keep your eyes open for that. It's a place where you can learn a skill, have some fun, and make some new acquaintances. I also attended officially the library board meeting on the 24th of this past month of November. And at that meeting, I was elected chair, so I'm looking forward to being part of that group for the next little over a year, or a little under a year. A good group, and certainly the library is very near and dear to my heart. I also attended the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee meeting on the 26th of November, and the town Christmas party this past Saturday, the 29th, where I got a chance to see a number of the staff team that I don't get a chance to see very often, and I'm really quite pleased to be a small part of that great team, and of hardworking people who really have the best interests of the town at their heart and through their work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kerman.
Thank you, Mayor Service. I can report that on the 19th of November, I chaired a meeting of the Petawawa OPP Detachment Board. And this past Saturday, I too attended the staff Christmas party, along with many other councillors here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor Service. I can report that on November 24th, I attended the Backyard Chickens Ad Hoc Committee meeting. Okay, that was part one. Part two is to come because we're really taking our time with this bylaw and taking in all of the expert advice we've been given and making very good decisions. So excited for part two to come out. And I attended a library board meeting on November 24th, and we were very gratified that Debbie Marcel became our chair, and looking forward to working with her more. And then, unfortunately, I missed the town Christmas party. I was away in Halifax for a family wedding, and I'm just going to report that something I took for granted, I think, because I barely ever leave Petawawa, was the exquisite taste of our water. So Halifax water I did not enjoy. So I'm really glad to be back in town and back with you all, and hopefully another chance to celebrate will come up soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 24th, I also attended the Backyard Chicken Ad Hoc Committee. On the 27th, I attended a meeting at the airport. We discussed our financial operations, looking forward at the budget this year. Everything's looking very good. We'll be purchasing a new 3/4 ton truck to replace the 2007 one we have there now. That'll be the big purchase for this year. Other than that, airport's looking very good. The new hangars going up. Construction will be stopped on that for the winter, but then they'll hopefully finish that by next spring. And then I also attended the Christmas party weekend as well. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 24th of November, I as well was in attendance for the Backyard Chicken Ad Hoc Committee. Got lots of good work done there. On the 25th, I attended a business forum in Pembroke, that was hosted by the Chamber of Commerce, and which was attended by a lot of different municipalities, and some really good sharing of information. On the 26th, I went through the training, Stronger Leaders, Stronger Communities, that's put on by AMO with regards to meet their needs or their view on elections and community members that wish to be involved within the municipal government and how to do that without becoming a target. The 27th was the day of our Petawawa Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting. We reviewed our upcoming events and the events that we had just previous to that, which would have been the Halloween. Looked at some budget ideas in terms of how we're going to move forward with some of the priorities that we have determined. And then on the 29th, I as well was at the staff Christmas party. Great organization, the facility looked fantastic. It was a lot of fun. That's it for now.
Thank you. Councillor Roots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On November 27th, I attended the waste recovery budget meeting. This past weekend, I also attended the town staff Christmas party. So nice to see everyone enjoying each other's friendship. And just a reminder, this Saturday, December 6th, at 6 p.m., we'll be having our town Christmas parade, followed by a tree lighting, a nice gathering for the tailgate party at the container market. Right, Christine? And there's so many activities and so many things to see and enjoy. So bring the family, bring your friends, and welcome to Petawawa.
Thank you. For the past couple of weeks, on the 17th, we had a water and dirt meeting, just discussing a few new events. On the 24th, the CAO and I had a meeting with the CAO and the Mayor of Laurentian Valley, just talking about shared opportunities and collaborations. On the 24th, I attended a meeting with the Horticultural Society. On the 25th, it was the Economic Development County of Renfrew Summit, which was a really good event put together by Renfrew County with lots of interesting guest speakers and a very powerful keynote speaker. Master Corporal retired Mike Trauner was there to talk to the audience. On the 26th, I was at the county for a development and property and operations meeting. On the 27th, we had a meeting concerning Petawawa Terrace Provincial Park and potential cooperations and collaborations there. Also on the 27th, we had the audit review meeting to prepare for tonight's meeting's audit. And yes, the 29th, I was at the town Christmas party. Fantastic job by all the organizers, decorations outstanding, and the old red couch. I don't know where they got that, but it was a nice addition to the evening. And I'll echo what Councillor Ruth said. Yes, Saturday, December 6th, 6 p.m., town Petawawa, a big evening Santa Claus parade. I don't know if we can get better than last year, but I'm hoping we are. And I'm sure a lot of our residents have noticed we've gone to phase 3 of the Christmas Trail of Lights. It's now swallowed up the King Hut and all the way over to the parking lot. So every year we're just expanding that and making it more and more special. And congratulations, Deputy Mayor Sattman, on being named Chair of the Library Board. That's great. Okay. Next, I need a motion to go into closed. Moved by Councillor Ruth, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that the meeting be closed pursuant to Section 239, Paragraph 2, Paragraph C of the Municipal Act 2001, S.O.2001, C.25 as amended, to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board regarding property located in the industrial park. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. All right, we're back. We had a closed session meeting. A closed meeting was held. Council discussed the potential disposition of land in the industrial park. And we will now vote on the following motion. The council considers selling available buffered land identified as lot 17 in the industrial park concept plan to the owner of Heavy Metal Incorporated, 133-64496 Canada Incorporated, Randy Binky at $10,000 per acre because it's buffered lands to be determined by survey. If you're comfortable, I need a motion. Moved by Councilor Roots, seconded by Councilor Coutu. Do I need to read the motion? I don't have to read the motion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. I need a motion for the confirming bylaw. Moved by Councilor Donovan. Seconded by Councilor Roots. That bylaw 1793/25 be read a first, second, and third time and passed. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa bylaw 1793-25, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on December 1st, 2025. Be read first, second, and third time and passed. This constitutes first, second, and third reading short of bylaw 1793-25, this first day of December 2025.
I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor Coutu, seconded by Councilor Carmody, that the meeting adjourn at the call of the minute. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.